Okay, so we are recording. For the men who are watching this on video, you see who's on the call, and Glenn Barker is our special guest today to talk about what is making Chicago so successful. They are just kicking ass on enrollment, and take some questions and like that. So Glenn, I'm going to turn the call over to you.
Right. Well, thank you, man, and thank you for joining this call, whether it's live or recorded. What we're attempting to do today is to try to give you some insight in not a perfect system, but one that has evolved over time and has outreach and inclusion and multicultural aspects to it. And I'll just begin. This is for the enrollment folks and invitation. And so MKP Chicago has been established for a long time. You know, it's been a good 10, 12 years. And I've had the good fortune to have the liberty of trying some things. So my first thought to you, in part, is to say, experiment. I believe that what we created in the way of an open circle that we've shared with USA, and they've helped tweak it somewhat, is a cornerstone piece for outreach. What do I mean? The availability of an open circle in almost any circumstance is a wonderful tool. So what I'll tell you is that you can go to places of worship. You can approach clubs and associations and in the city and the state and all kinds of outreach places and host an open circle. Now, this is a great introduction to men's work. So I believe that the introduction is everything. So I've also worked with therapists as well. So let me slow down a bit and do a little bit of unpacking. Let's talk about outreach to therapists. So you may have some therapists, social workers in your community themselves. They might be in your organizations. I would say put out an email asking for them to make themselves known. All right. And then have a little chat with each one of them. See if you can find out where they work. Would they be open to have an open circle at their place? Right. And think small and think success. 4 or 5 men, 2 or 3 warriors, and see if you can get some folks of influence to sit in that circle. Right? If you can, you have the start of an inroad there of not only a great ongoing relationship with therapists, but referrals and maybe even an ongoing men's group in that community or in that office. I've done this a number of times now, and I just picked up another therapist that has 4 offices. He wants to do their weekend this fall and wants to have a men's group in each one of his offices. I'm finding now I have a shortage of facilitators. This is a wonderful way to start open circles and possibly even communities in your area. Be vigilant. Investigate. Go slow. Set it up to win. We have an open circle resource page for you that has all the things you need. For instance, you do need to have somebody who's about invitation that can do the outreach and get some of the logistics set up. And you need an administrative person that'll make sure the timing is right and the room is right and the facility is right. And then you need a facilitator that will come in like on a weekend, right? And their job is to do the magic. So if you set this up this way with a little team, just 3, outreach, admin, and facilitation, you can set these things up to win. And your idea is to make an impression there with their group or how you show up. So be organized. I'll be glad to help anybody with that. Therapists can give you anywhere from 2 to 10 men a year for your area. So imagine what 10 therapists might be able to do to help your enrollment. Now, these are ongoing relationships. So it isn't a set it and forget it. So it's a little different than the everyday relationship or maybe a one-off. No, you need to be trusted. They're entrusting you with their clients. So they have to understand that this is not a substitute, right? It's a supplement to what they're doing. And the therapists themselves can come through, if they're male, one of the weekends. That is ultimately the best because they will know exactly how this fits in. Now, again, I'm open to go into the nuances of this with any man, but I encourage you to put that on your list. Number 1, get with therapists, social workers, and see if you can set up open circles. That's number 1. Number 2, I was fortunate to know a man who early on started a program for schools. And he almost gave it up. But now, 6 years later, right, they're in like 50 schools in Chicago, and it's called Becoming a Man. It's called BAM. And the President of the United States saw this group when he was in Chicago some years back and modeled My Brother's Keeper after it. That's how impressed he was with this group. So they're working with high school young men. This man's a warrior, and he started this great program as an alternative for being kicked out of school or for those that are having troubles. Now, this fall, they'll be hiring another 60 mentors to go be placed in schools. Each of those mentors starts their training by coming to Mankind Project for a weekend. So we are part of their training program. Now, what that does is give us a great influx of new men coming through, but doesn't necessarily build our community. But realize we are providing a service now to somebody else's program to build their community. Now, this is something you might want to reach out to your local mental health professional, your governmental social services groups, and ask them, do they have a program for mentoring? And how do they go about training their mentors? And you may find that they want to have further training for their mentors. And this is a great step for a man examining his own life before he goes on to mentor others. Terrific. Now, this has taken some years to develop, but it's a great influx of men, and we're glad to have it. Another thing you can do for outreach is to host open circles. I'll go once again into any community. Let me give you an example. You can put out an email to your groups and say, who has a church or a synagogue or a library in their area and would like to host an open circle? And so you have an anchor in that community now that maybe want to take point. The idea here, though, is not to overburden any one person if you can. So bring in your team. Bring in your team of 3 people and have this person be the connection to the organization. And just host an open circle there, see how it goes. And I'll give you an example. West of Chicago, 5 or 10 miles, a man was occasionally having a circle in his church. They liked the idea of a men's circle, but they could never get it off the ground. It wouldn't last. And so we went and saw them and said, listen, we do have a format. We're not Christian-based, but we do have a format that men certainly seem to get a lot of value out of. Would you like us to try? And they said, yes. Further discussions brought us to an understanding that they're actually connected with 5 other churches. So I created a flyer that they distributed through their Sunday handouts and such, that we were going to host this in the hopes of launching a series. So I asked all those churches to come, invite their men, give us a critique, and see if they want this to be ongoing. Well, we did. We had 27 men there, and now it's been a year and a half, and it's still going on. We're being fed by a number of local churches to all meet at this one place. So the circumstances, the venue, the organization may be quite different, but what you have in the open circle is a great way to launch, right? And this is not necessarily to sell MKP, it's to promote the value of what we have as a men's organization and what it means to the men and their families. Now, I might pause to take a breath there for a second because I can move on to other minutiae or start to drill down, but there's a couple of things. So how about we pause and I'll be open for a few questions. If I haven't fed you with a fire hose, that is.
Or even if he has. Who has a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I missed the 3. There was an outreach person, a facilitator. What was the other one?
Administrative person.
Administrative, okay.
Dan Baldwin calls it a geek. Someone that'll track things for you. Keep attendance. Make sure things stay on schedule. You have the forms and the stickers and the name tags and all the logistical things and tracking. A tracking system.
Brad, I don't think you had a chance to check in. You want to check in?
Yeah, hey, I'm checking in with joy. I love the weekend this past weekend. It really opened my vision up of what we need to do in Arizona. It was amazing. So I'm checking in with joy and happiness, and with that, I'm in.
Thank you. And Boysen, I see you joined the call. Would you check in?
I heard Glenn Barker was going to be here, so Brother Raven checking in. I apologize for showing up late. Happy to be here and listening, and gratitude and fear, and I'm in.
Oh. Other questions for Glenn?
Yeah, Glenn, it's Greg. And
Glenn, Randall, and six.
Greg and then Randall.
Go ahead, Greg.
Thanks, Glenn. My question is, list just very briefly the key elements that you find resonate the best in an open circle. We have one going here, but from your experience, what are the kind of the touch points or the key items you need to include? Obviously, it's not an I group, so.
So if you look at what Boysen and I and Dan put together, I think the elements that are there is number one, for me, I like to, as best I can, facilitate in such a way that demonstrates each of the archetypes. So I don't necessarily explain it that way,
right.
But I believe if men can observe a powerful man that isn't abusive, a compassionate man who doesn't get abused, right? To be able to demonstrate the lover, the magician, like in the middle of take a break and do a little process. We use accountability as a start. It's a great way to do it. You do it quickly. Or I was thinking lately, those cards that you get after doing the iGroup facilitation cards, these shortcut things, and just demonstrate once or twice what something looks like in process, so they can witness how things are done without a shaming way, how forthright you can be, how you can expose yourself, and it's safe, and you don't die. So to be a little more specific, I have 4 rounds and a work round in the middle. So think of it as, and look at that, what's up there on the Open Circle resource page. I think it demonstrates king, lover, warrior, magician, especially when you end with a blessing round. What is your gold, man? It's wonderful. And there's something innate in that process itself, without having to explain it, that transmits. I think if you've done that, you've done your job. And then you have the ask. Who would you like to know more? If you didn't like what you saw tonight and you just wanted to visit once, on your way out, scratch your name off the list. If you leave your name on the list, I'm going to assume that you want to have contact and think about what would be next for you, and I'd be glad to do that.
That's great.
Gentlemen, if you do that, you've done your job, and you've done it well.
Beautiful. And Boysen just posted the link to the Open Circles handbook, the resource page, and it's in chat for those of you who are on the phone. If you don't see it, just contact me or contact Boysen, and we'll get it to you. And Randall, you had a question.
Thank you, Glenn. And Boysen just anticipated one of my questions. The link to the resource page was sent, so thank you for that. And Glenn, what a great idea. Thank you for this. We have a lodge in St. Louis, and we've been working on inviting men into our lodge as opposed to taking open circles out to the community. So thank you for that. A lot of good ideas here. Different question. Going back to your first idea on outreach to psychotherapists, do you run into any issues on boundaries that the counselors, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists need to keep a professional distance from their clients? Does that come up?
Yes, the current fellow I'm working with now wants to do a weekend, and he's going to have 4 or 5 men from his practice in his weekend, and so the short answer is yes. The therapists themselves may not be part of the circle, so let me slow down. The therapists I work with are really more in my circle, so I'll get together on a more professional level to work with them, talk with them, but rarely, and I don't think it is a good idea that they sit there in circle with their clients. If you can avoid it, not to put them on a weekend, or at least make a separate carpet. So the answer is yes. Boundaries are between you, the clients that he sends you, and a deep understanding of what your roles will be. I'll be glad to go into that with any man about how to keep those roles clear and have an understanding of the handoff and how it's done, and where they leave off, where you pick up, and how you head them back. This is very important. It's a professional, high trust, high confidential relationship.
Really good. Really important. Thanks. Any other questions?
I understood. If I may have a follow-up.
Sure, Randall.
Follow-up question, Glenn, on boundaries. I would think, and I'm not a professional, but I would think that even on a different carpet on the same weekend would be an issue. We'd be more than happy to exchange therapists, St. Louis to Chicago, and I know Kansas City's on the call too. That may address that issue, allow the therapist to see what the weekend looks like without the risk of boundary issues there. Thoughts there?
Great
Wonderful idea. I like it.
Great. Anybody else before Glenn moves on to another topic?
I have a question, Sam from NorCal.
Go, Sam.
Yeah, I have a question about safety in a container. If there is no agreement about attendance and you don't have consistency of people showing up in an open circle.
I'm sorry, I lost part of it. Would you repeat the question?
How can you establish safety if there is no consistency of attendance in an open circle?
How you set the framework, again, take a look at the page that we set up. Boyson's very good at this. How you set the container is, there's two parts. One is the setting of the container and the boundaries and how you're going to conduct it. It is highly structured, but it doesn't feel rigid. And this is the nuance piece. And hijacking is probably your biggest concern. If you have somebody that, and more likely than not, that'll be from a warrior than a visitor, because the visitors tend to be a little more reserved. But if you want to get more specific, you mean if somebody walks in who's obviously disturbed and then shouldn't be there? Am I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would that be an instance that might come to mind?
Yeah, we just had an open circle last week, and we're going to follow up in the next 3 weeks. So I'm just bringing out a possible scenario that could come up.
Certainly. I'll give you one example. I was doing an open circle, and a man came drunk. He was obviously drunk, and he wanted to emote, and he wanted to hijack. And I asked if everyone would just take a pause for a minute, and I asked the man, would he take a walk with me? And I said, so obviously you came, and you do love the idea of being with the men, and yet today may not be the day for you to participate because we want to get certain things done. I will have an ask of you. If you want to observe, you can sit and observe. I'm going to ask you not to participate and stay later with me if you can, so that I can go over things specifically for you. Well, the man got the message, and he just sat and behaved, and we stayed later, and it was wonderful. So it's kind of how you handle it, and you may have to ask a man to leave. Just realize that.
Right.
You have to stop the proceeding before he hijacks it from you and say, excuse me, and then take the man aside so you don't embarrass him. Say, can I see you for a few minutes? Can we take a little walk? And then walk him to his car and exchange information. Say, I'd be glad to talk to you. Please call me when you get home. I'd like to carry this on one-to-one. And if you have to.
Sounds good.
Yeah, if you have to, you call the police.
Got it. Thank you.
Did that answer? Was that what you wanted, Sam?
Yes. Yeah. I'm just picturing a scenario. If men are not consistent in their attendance on as agreed with schedules for open circles.
May I offer a couple of things, Glenn?
Mm-hmm.
So first, it sounds like you're talking more about new warriors, yes? Or are you talking about any guy who's showing up?
Any guy who shows up.
Any guy who shows up. Clarity of intention right from the get-go. Every week, reinforced every time you do an open circle. Clarity of ground rules from the get-go. We have a poster printed out that we read at every open circle so that the ground rules are laid out. And then clarity of the facilitation team to know where, beyond here there be dragons. where you will go and where you will not go. So we do not do guts at an open circle, at an open men's group. You know, that's
Right.
like
Right.
bottom line. So, you know, monitor the process. And then what Glenn said was exactly right on. If a guy is dissociative, if a guy is disruptive, if a guy is whatever, stop the container and have somebody take him aside. I've walked guys outside that when it's needed, we go for a walk.
Yep, we go for a walk.
So that's my input.
Got it. Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you, man.
Very good. Anything else? I want to set just by way of a little late context setting. I had a realization at the meeting in Houston this weekend that, and boys, and I haven't had a chance to share this with you, but I'd be interested in what you'd think about it. That traditionally our enrollment process, really everything we do has been what I would call supply driven. In other words, we've got this many NWTAs, we want to fill them, they're a fixed date, and we just got to go out hunting for men to put into those programs. And what I see happening is Boysen's lead conversion program and the stuff that Glenn is talking about open circles. These are creating demand, and we're really shifting to being demand driven. And this isn't just about the NWTA. We're doing it around staff. I see where we're doing it around volunteers in general. So if you think in terms of creating and managing demand rather than the kind of one by one put men into programs that we've traditionally done, I think this is very exciting stuff, and it will get us back to where we have oversubscribed programs, in my judgment. And oversubscribed programs is a good thing. So Glenn, what else for you?
So I'll finish up a little bit about the open circles and move on to other things. We're moving towards more and more too is putting it as a staff requirement that they'll maybe host their own open circle or attend a certain amount of open circles. So what you really worry about, in my concern, is your core team. Let me give you one other piece that's been quite exciting. Many men want to facilitate or want to learn how to facilitate. The open circle is such a simple but profound process that I would urge you to have, yes, your core team, your facilitator, your outreach person, and your admin, and have a mentee or two come with. Doing 2 or 3 of these circles, a little pre-meeting, a little post, how do we do, what could we be better with these men, and within 2 or 3 meetings, open circles, these men could be at least facilitating a round. Soon they could be facilitating the entire circle. And you and your core team can now move on to another spot, and this place is in good shape. So think about your own succession, so you don't burn out yourself and burn out the people, and you can bring up people very quickly to be trained in this area. And it's wonderful to see. It's wonderful to see them step into their leadership because they can handle this. So please take note of that. Any questions around that? And it's a great PR piece. Put that out there. We're doing open circles. We're looking for mentees, facilitators in training. Come sit with us. And they can hold great space.
Really great. Really great.
Any questions around that?
Any questions for Glenn about that part? Okay, anything else?
Glenn, a simple question. Oh, Randall in St. Louis, a simple question. In a given week, what do you think is the number of men you have sitting in open circles throughout the entire Chicago area?
Got about 5 open circles, so I'd say, hard to say because I don't track all of them as good as I should. I fall down on this stuff. Oh, I'd say there's probably at least, maybe on a monthly basis, probably 20 men come through, maybe more, sitting in circle for the first time.
Thank you.
Of course, you can use, this is another way I use Meetup. And we've been talking a lot about Meetup in this organization. Point your meetups to your open circles. Make the open circles your meetup. Get it? Got it? Follow me with that?
Yep.
So if you put up a meetup page, what you're inviting them, and establish open circles regularly, every Tuesday, Thursday, whatever it is. Put it on the calendar. Whether anybody shows up or not, you're hosting. You point your PR that way out on your list. Come. On your meetups, come. On your Facebook, come. Right? Very consistent. And they'll come. You get your staff involved for your weekends. This is the place to bring your man. Any questions? I think I'd like to ask Boyson for a moment. You agree with all this, Boyson? What else could you add?
Yeah, regularity. If you're new to the kind of open men's group concept, don't think about it as an I group at all. This is something else that we do. This is peer facilitated support for any man to experience. So I heard Glenn say this is not about selling, it's not about selling the NWTA. It's not about selling the organization. It's about being of benefit to men who come to see us. And I think that's where Meetup is going to be great for us in continuing to grow.
And tie those things together, if you can. Tie your PR to have that being maybe your first entry point for most men. That's wonderful. So I'll give you a close that I sort of use at the end of an open circle. And basically it is, so men. We spent 2 hours together. I like to keep them to 2 hours. We spent 2 hours together, and I believe I've come to know you in ways that might have taken a year in other circumstances. So I hope you found value in tonight. So I'm going to say one thing, men. If this is what you're looking for, you found it. I don't know of any other organization that can host men's programs like this anywhere in the world. So before you go, stop and see me. Stop at that desk on the way out, pick up a few things. If you leave your name on that list, that means you're telling me you want to be contacted about what your next step might be. So thank you for coming. Have a safe journey home.
Beautiful.
Nice way to end.
Wonderful. What I love about it, Glenn, is men are going to, a certain number of men are going to come there expecting a sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with homecomings. This is my close at homecomings. I know some of you were here waiting for the sales pitch. Here's the sales pitch. When you're ready, do it. Good night.
There's something wonderful for just going partway down the road and not finishing.
Right.
Wait. I want to know. Time's up. Wonderful.
Any other questions or discussion? Dennis Shackley, are you there? You didn't get a chance to check in, but I don't see you behind your camera. There he is. Dennis, check in. You're on mute. I'll unmute you since you can't seem to find it. Go.
Okay. Dennis? Yeah. Shackley. Shackley, True Cheetah. Checking in with joy, appreciation, really some tremendous information on this call. It's moving, touching, and inspiring. And I hope that we keep open circles going from this discussion. So
great, Dennis,
much appreciation and blessings to you.
What area are you in, Dennis?
I'm in Phoenix. I'm
great.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, fabulous.
Phoenix.
We've heard of Phoenix. Yeah, it's hot there.
Okay. Right.
Any other questions for Glenn, or any other discussion in general about creating demand, open circle, open? One of the things we did, the iGroup coordinators did over the weekend in Houston, was they established that there are three kinds of circles in their domain. One is open circles, one is open iGroups, which is iGroups that will accept visits from uninitiated men. And then there's closed iGroups, and that only open circles and open iGroups are going to be listed on the public-facing pages on the MKP USA website. That if an iGroup is closed, it won't be listed. And we're doing that so that men get a much better, frankly, much better customer service. On the, what do I want to say? On the times they call in. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a little befuddled with allergies. It's peak pine season here. And I'm violently allergic to pine. Anyhow, so sorry if I'm a little foggy, but that was, I think, a big step forward.
Mhm.
What else? Boysen, anything you want to add or say or just bring up that other than what we've been talking about?
Yeah, that was good. The distinction that you just drew, the fact that we're going to be making changes to the publicly available information from MKP Connect to open iGroups and open men's groups. These guys, you guys on this call are enrollment coordinators, and so many of you heard what I talked about with the inquiry V groups, the area inquiry V groups. I've already added one of you who wasn't on an area inquiry V group. If you're the guy who's supposed to be getting inquiries from a guy that asks for information about an iGroup, about training, and you're not on an area inquiry V group, then I want to get you added to it.
How would they know, Boysen?
They would know because they would have gotten a message from me in the last week if they were on one. They would have just gotten a message. So if you didn't get a message in the last week from an inquiry V group with a pretty good hefty email from me, then I need to add you.
Very good. So they should let you know.
They should let me know.
You can either let them know by chat on this call or shoot an email to communications@mkp.org.
Correct. mkpusa.org.
mkpusa.org.
And Glenn got his yesterday.
Well, I've been saying Glenn's going to get his one of these days. Any other comments or questions?
Why do you have to take this?
Ed Randall.
It's because we love it.
Ed Randall.
Go ahead.
What's our scheduled end time today? How much time do we have blocked out?
We have blocked out the full hour. We don't usually use it, and that's fine. But if there's no further conversation or discussion, we'll check out early.
If time allows, the question I have for Glenn in particular, and I guess Boysen in general, is how is particularly meetup.com and Facebook, what's working for Chicago and in general on attracting men and encouraging them to attend the open circles?
Great question, Randall. Glenn, you want to go first?
Certainly. It's as simple as create yourself a nice page on Meetup. I think it's doing quite well. And I point my Meetup events are the open circles. And so it's almost a set it and forget it, but don't forget to correspond. How quickly you correspond, you reply, and let me slow down enough to say what you're looking to do is create enough interest for men to come, not to answer the whole question. So there is a way of bringing things. You must always answer a question, but say, and we'd like to go with that further. Come to the open circle. Come to the meetup. So just revolve everything around that. I think it's a great tool. But all of these are incremental. I mean, 2 or 3 guys from a meetup, 4 or 5 from a meetup, 1 or 2 for your fit. It's consistency is the key. I wanted to cover one other thing that Boysen was hitting on because I think it's important. The quality of your facilitation. I know that part of only listing open circles and open iGroups are the subtext is because you want to have a quality product. So these open circles and these open iGroups have a quality floor, where you can be assured that someone, let's say, of about a CLC type level, or a very competent person, is holding the space. And that's the idea. They understand the rules, they know how to handle new people, and they're going to represent us and the work in such a way that we may all approve of, right?
Great.
All right.
And I want to underscore something that you said, Glenn, because it brought back an old learning of mine from back in the days when I was with the EST organization. One of the things they got right, they got a lot of things wrong in this arena, but one of the things they got right is that they always got back to people within 48 hours. If you don't get back within 48 hours, what you're going to get is, oh, yeah, I guess I did call, but I don't remember why. So get back to people as quickly as you can. Boysen, what about you? Any response about Meetup and Facebook and the like?
Hey, upstate New York. Ken, how excited are you about Meetup?
Well, here's the two of us.
Yeah.
We're both excited
Dave.
about it. We're in the
Dave.
car together. So we had 4 men go through the last NWTA. We have right now at least 2 for the next one, and we hope to have another 2 after that as well. So Meetup is getting tremendous response for us, just in the Syracuse area. That's not including Rochester.
We have over 300 members on our Meetup group now in New England that we've been in West Springfield that we've been running for the last 6 years. And I think that we've got 3 guys on our next weekend signed up right now. We've consistently had men come through our Meetup group, sign up for the weekend, and then stay in our I group. The guys who come and experience the work before they go to the weekend stay with the work, because they already know what they're getting on some level, and that's been really good. And just using Meetup, the other thing that Dan and I have talked about a lot is it's credibility and notability. So, especially with Meetup Pro implementation, like getting your group on Meetup. Oh, they're regularly meeting. Oh, there's this many guys there. Oh, there were that many men at their last meeting. Oh, there's this many reviews of the group on there. Mm-hmm. It gives us a level of credibility where we're not like out there on our own.
Social.
You get a bandwagoning effect going on when you have enough people showing up and commenting.
Definitely.
Also, what I heard was critical about Meetup. I don't know if it was you, Boysen, but to comment about the group afterwards. Great meeting. Had a great time. Thank you so much. That kind of thing. That then people see that it's real and it's not just blowing smoke.
Great piece. This is Glenn, and I'll say that not only should you do that there, but in your own listservs. So don't let it be a non-event by having it go past and not have comments. Even if you have to ask people to manufacture them, just say, how did the open circle go? So you have a pre-launch, a launch, and a post, right? And if you do these regularly, this can be beautiful arcs, right? Got your pre-launch, your build-up, your event, a little bit of trail afterwards, and then start your next one. So don't have gaps if you can. You always have an event going on towards.
I think it's really important to also have one person who's going to be responsible for that meetup for the area. David has been our point man for it so far, and I respond to people, but David also responds as well. So it's constant contact is the most important thing.
Very good.
So before we wrap up, this is Glenn. If there isn't any more questions, what I'd like to maybe offer this group is to have another chat like this, and Boysen would love to have you there about, I'll call it the conversation.
Great.
Next month. How do you talk with men? It's not a linear process. It is dynamic, but I think there are certain key points and milestones you can look to find, see if they're there, and hit, and have a greater ratio of closing men for the weekend. So I think it's a worthy conversation. Boys, you up for that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Well, men, mark it in your calendars. Our next call is July 25th, and that's when we'll do that, assuming Glenn can make it. And with that, let's do...
I have actually one other question, if
sure,
I might.
Go ahead, George.
directing this to you, Glenn, and anyone else that may have experience. I'm pretty new to the organization and to my role here. I'm also a therapist in Kansas City, and so I have had in mind this desire to make contact and do very much the thing that you've talked about doing. I've made some contacts with some organizations, and I'm just wondering if there is some particular magic, whether I understand face-to-face is always best, but if there are some kinds of blast letters or things, if there are some ways, some success paths that you have found in that pursuit.
You're asking Glenn, right?
Yes,
Yes.
if I understand you right, that's to bring up, it was, what's your, right? What is the promotional items you might want to send somebody? I have a nice one-pager, and it's an introduction to MKP. It's basics and 2 or 4 videos. Ask them to review it and ask them if you can have a conversation. Ask them what they liked about what they saw, and that's a good start. You should have a letter of introduction, videos, them to do a little homework, and then flout and ask them what made them interested, what caught their eye. It's pretty much like any other man. It's not that different. Just to try to ferret out genuine interest and go where the energy flows. And if you can provide a wonderful service, do it in a limited way and make sure you do it well.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and check out. Let's see, we have a, as far as, boys, and as far as Dennis's mentoring, I'll set something up. That's part of my job. I've got men that have volunteered to do that, so thank you. I'd let him know in a private message. Okay, so let's do a quick checkout, just one or two words, and then we can all get on with our day. So starting with Sam.
Sam, I just sent whale shark gratitude. I've got my notes. Thank you very much, Glenn.
Okay, Randall. Randall, are you there? Okay, we'll come back if he gets back. David Calvagno.
David, checking out, grateful.
Thank you.
No.
Sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off, David. Was there something else?
I'm good.
Thank you. Ken Stoneberg.
Ken Stumber checking out, excited, and you can see the train is moving. David and I are sitting here next to some train tracks.
It's a beautiful day in upstate New York. Dennis.
Inspired. Out.
Other Dennis. Dennis Sturts.
Sturts watching out. Feeling good. Glad to be in communication with all these men, especially you, Ed, and it was excellent to hear Glenn speak. It was wonderful. Out with joy.
Thank you. Greg.
Yeah, Greg Kleiner, Golden Eagle, Northwest, checking out with gratitude and a feeling of hope. Thanks, Glenn, for your giveaway, and Boyson for listening in. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Greg. Brad.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm excited. With that, I'm out.
Thank you, George.
Wine Chase, Deer Dancing with Bear. Gratitude, thanks to you specifically, Glenn, for your wisdom, and everyone else for their energy. I'm out.
Thank you, Bob.
For gratitude and more enlightenment. I'm out.
Thank you. Boysen.
Brother Raven in a thunderstorm, massive boomer outside my windows. Grateful. Thank you, Glenn. Good to see you. And I'm out.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Ben, for taking the time out from your day and the service that you're providing for your communities and your openness to learn and grow. This is not a one-off. You can contact me offline. I'm glad to help with any of these things. I'm in a position and I have experience to help. So do call on me. I hope to see you next time. Barker
Thanks.
is out with joy.
Thank you, Glenn. And Glenn, we really want to thank you. This is one of the best, most useful calls we've had. I know if the recording will get a lot of listens, and men on the call, if you want a refresher or there was a part you thought you wanted to hear again, I'll have the recording posted as soon as I can. Thank you all for your service. The men on the call, the men on the recording, you are what keeps this organization going. And I thank you for it. And I'll see you on July 25th. 2 hearts.
Hail!
I hope.
Hail!
Oh.